so they aren't that hot. Some of them will drop out. So I'll do my best. And this one does not have fresh batteries. This one does have fresh batteries. I kind of did that on purpose because being low-fi, they're affected by temperature, they drift. This one was slowed down a lot. I noticed when I had a low battery, it slowed down to something I enjoyed a little bit. And one of the other things that I learned as I did this, when I first used them, I was very worried that I couldn't repeat. I'd get them on a setting and I would put them away. I'd be nervous because I got that sound. And now after the last year, I really feel like I just don't carry them on, and I can just develop as I go a little bit more. So I'll do a little bit of that. So it'll be an improvisational piece and a little discovery for me, but it's been quite some time since I've used it. they didn't break while I was using them, so I'm let down a little bit.
Wow, I started feeling just very like ultra relaxed, almost like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you were playing that in the background, just as ambient, right? If you're trying to relax, I mean, I almost think that'd be great sleep too, kind of. Do you put sounds together like that for like sleeping and different white noise kind of things?
Sure. You know what I really liked about it was there's no keyboards and no sequencers. Like, I mean, I think these tools are great for some musicians, but I also think it's great not to have these. They put limitations on the performance. Yeah. Like I have to play specific notes, or I have to have a specific rhythm or sequence of things. But when it's just up to you playing the machines, I think it really is your own soul that comes through. It's not dictated by other things.
And I love the little like percussive undertone. I don't know if anybody else picked up on that, but I play percussion, so pick up on that. It came in and then it left and then it came in again, and it was very interesting.
That was the dead battery on this one that I got kind of
connected to. Is that what that is?
The low voltage, yeah, it was just getting to a click. It wasn't going. And this, Junior brings up an interesting point too for me, because we've been doing this together for the last 2.5 years pretty intensely, where we meet every month, we perform several times a week. And I usually come with 4 speakers, and I've been studying spatial sound, which took programming, which took months, and I build amplifiers, and it got to be, it is, and I still enjoy parts of it, and it will still be part of my discovery, but it was very fun when I saw this on the shelf, and I'd left it on by accident. This is 5 watts. I built it with like 6 different components, and I like the limitations, and you talk about creative process,
right.
Limitations really help. And it actually, I remember I made this decision just, it was measured, just like in a day ago. I was sitting there belaboring this point in a program called Max MSP, which is used for experimental music for 30 years. It's an excellent program. And I'm sitting there looking at the computer, sweating this tiny little detail, and I just turned it off, and I pulled these off the shelf, and I said, this would have taken me, would take me a month to, there's 6 different oscillators which are just all over the board. It would actually even be difficult to mimic some of these in their rawness and their simplicity. So why am I mimicking that when I can kind of do that this other way? So I tend to weave back and forth. While I like limitations and I like guardrails, I like to change around. I was anti-computer for 2 years, then I looked like everybody's computer bro for the last year. I'd show up with a laptop, but I don't care. I don't like to see any of the discussion in sound art be about one being better than another, or these things. I say try on these limitations, just enjoy yourself. How does it feel? That's what an artist told me once. I came off of the stage and I was like, how did I do? And he stopped and he said, how did it feel?
I think a lot, like if you look at like great chefs that make great meals, it's not about the kind of knives or the kind of pots and pans, it's the end result. And art is about that as well. It's not about what you're using. These are just tools to express yourself and to create something. It's all about creating.
Well, and that's why when we did our nonprofit, Creative Drill Sergeants Expressive Arts Academy, because expressive arts transcends so many different aspects. I mean, coffee roasting can be an expressive art. It's just what you're releasing, that creativity. I mean, farming can be an expressive art. This is an expression. Like the feelings you had about your father, that came through it to me. That energy, right? I don't know about anybody else, but that energy, the rawness, the pureness of that energy really translated to me, knowing that the back feelings and the story on that. When I heard the sound, it had a much more profound impact on me than if you hadn't had brought that personal piece into that.
And then, we talked a lot about musicianship, and Larry, you and I play together, and tomorrow morning we'll be playing some very traditional stuff. Right. On the downbeat, we'll be in this chord. We're in the rhythm section of all things, but it's a pleasure not to. you know. So I kind of like them to be very separate. So Sound Art Arizona is truly about, you know, really just sound for the sake of sound, and just finding what you want and doing what you want, and really not about limiting anybody or excluding.
But you're also marrying it with the visual art aspect too, like you did at the Trolley Museum, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, Richard, you said something that I've been feeling too, and it's like I can't see the difference anymore. Like I started doing research on, you know, as musicians we like charts. We get very attached to writing music and writing our charts. Well, in experimental music, how do they do that? And there was a long history of artwork. They didn't know how to express these times, these distances, but they were trying to communicate, so they were painting and drawing. So I did that intensely for a month. And I was getting the same feeling, and I started to see that there was no difference. I couldn't find the difference. I would draw a chart of a piece, and it felt the same as playing the piece. It was the same part of my heart. And then, you know, we talked about a little bit about music too. I do like to talk about that because there are some, you know, the subject always comes up. It's what helped me. Like I was very hung up on improvisation because I didn't sound like Bill Evans. I didn't sound like my heroes, so I couldn't play. I got to where my hands would shake, where I couldn't physically play. So the music and I think the relationship I had with electronics helped me to get over it, so I could actually perform. And we're going to play in front of how many people tomorrow? 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm blessed. I don't even care about that portion of it. I just try to connect with them.
We do.
Yeah.
Dustin gives us leeway though. I don't think I play the same song the same way every time. Right.
I'm speaking to like the subject of like where it just doesn't even matter. I don't even feel I've been released from the pressure.
Yeah.
Right, the pressure of performance.
Yeah.
We were talking about that this morning. It's a freeness.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was saying this morning, you know, there's the Gina here, and then there's the Gina that gets up on stage and performs, and then the second I step off stage, I'm back to being this Gina, you know. So you really do, you have to, in a lot of ways, separate yourself. And I'm up there to give to the audience, to just share that piece of myself with the audience. But the visual art, it really touched me when you did that at the Trolley Museum.
Right, me too.
And with a component of our nonprofit being very focused on visual art. Lyle showed you the project that he did. It's really interesting, incorporating the film. And this would be amazing to bring more, like my artwork, I do a lot of mandala, abstract digital art. And when I was listening to that, I was seeing mandala shapes that I want to create that were kind of coming to my mind as I was listening to the music, right, Lyle? So I could see like a montage of mandala art flowing with the sound and the way that it, you know, could translate and really draw the audience in on both levels, on the sound, the frequency, the resonance, and also the visual experience too.
I have a art installation still sitting in my garage, but it incorporates a ton of different projectors and all this other kind of stuff. And we were talking about taking like a lot of the visual art, like mandalas and stuff, enlarging them, processing them, and doing all sorts of interesting things going across the installation, and then incorporating some kind of sound art, like you guys were talking about, and have it all kind of work together, so you're seeing all this kind of stuff, kind of this really
But also like
collaboration.
Right, there were shots of the trolley and the different sounds that went with that. I mean, it was very, it really touched me. It drew me in to seeing something that would ordinarily be so ordinary in a not ordinary way. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
The artist that did those visuals is Vic Boyd, and he came to the meeting and he creates instruments. And so at this point I would say, why are we doing these meetings? Well, we do these meetings to encourage, a big part of it is to encourage one another. So there's a lot of people here that is their first time, their second time, their 20th time. Just know that we want to make this a space for you guys next month. And the show that you talked about, the Trolley Museum, is very invitational. Just let me know and I'll make a space You know, there are artists. There are 6 artists that performed that night. There were 5 the month before. Somebody wanted to do the visual, so we like people just to. So we want to make space for people. So if anybody has a little bit of experiment in them, they want to try this, there's space. So we do a bunch of events. So the Trolley Museum is first Friday. We're doing it again in March, so we'll be there first Friday March. If anybody here wants to join, just let me know. On Monday night, we're playing at the Valley Bar, and that's where we saw visuals. And I think you were there actually.
Yeah,
You came to join us there, which was a real pleasure. We've been doing that once a month too. And then what else? On Wednesday night, do you want to speak to that one? That's a real fun one.
Yeah, there are going to be 6 artists. Kristen is one of them. Performing at the Aside Theatre, which is on 7th Street, and it's been put together by Nathaniel Burns, who sort of leads the Aside Theatre, and it's a night of what's it? It's
Stop Sound Now.
It's called Stop Sound Now, and it's dealing with human rights. So there'll be 6 artists performing there, relating to that theme, and it should be a fun night.
Yeah, this Wednesday. So we have a lot of things. We have a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday after that. But we have regular events that go on, and it's all about inclusion. So please just let me know. You know, we have space. We love to. If you haven't, also this meeting is also about obstacles. You know, technically, I used to be able to be very helpful to people. How do you amplify? How do you make them? I can help with that if any of those things are there. And I've also done things where people combine if they're worried about playing for the first time. We've been a first-time performer place for a lot of people, so you can combine with somebody if that makes you feel better too. So that's all.
Great, and we hope to get more veterans involved.
Yeah, I think that's really great.